Crew application accepted, written by Majestic Teach, 6677. I entered the bar feeling desperate. I had less than 10 days left on my lease, and if I didn't get a job now, I'd have to pack up, head home with my tail between my legs, and live with my parents. That's something no self-respecting sapien wants to do, especially when I had studied all the subjects I found interesting, but my parents objected to. I saw my quarry sitting at a bar with 2 empty glasses in front of him, while he was slowly drinking from a third. This did not look good. I wasn't sure how a drunk at a bar would help me, but I trusted Zeldrax, a childhood friend of my mother's. She was one of the few that encouraged me to find my own way. That said, some of her ideas on how to do things were a bit odd, and heading to a bar in the middle of the day didn't inspire confidence. At least if this didn't work out, I could find a quiet corner and get a few drinks while I checked the infonet for job listings. Gathering my courage, I walked over to the bar and climbed up on a stool next to the guy I'd been told to find. I turned to face him and flashed a warm smile. "Hello." The man just cocked his head to the side and looked at me inquisitively, not quite sure what to make of me. It made sense that he was certainly old enough to be my father. At first glance, I guessed that he was buzzed but not drunk. Hopefully, that was a good sign. "Zeldrax sent me to talk to you. She said that you might have some advice on finding a decent ship to join us crew."
"Ah, Zeldrax. I haven't heard that name in a while. Is she doing well?"
"She's still alive and kicking. She said that you really need to stop by before you ship out again, but she also wanted me to remind you that she hasn't gotten a replacement Gorthniak vase from you yet."
"Really? It's been over 15 cycles. I'd hoped she'd forgotten about that. But considering the story of how I broke it, I can see how it would be hard for her to forget," he said with a chuckle. "Anyway, so tell me, how can I help?"
"Nah, I can't find a good ship to hire me. The only vessels that have made offers are the ones that are clearly not well maintained or are run by captains with bad reputations. I knew that it would be hard to get my first job, but I am more than just a fresh face. I've got the certs to prove I'm capable, and I'm more than willing to start at the bottom to get experience."
"You've got a full general spacer rating, right?"
Of course, but I've also got an engineering assistant certification, and I'm a heavy loader certified. I'm cross-trained in all the right areas where I should be great fit for a lot of crews, and they can hire me cheap because I'm just out of school, and I'm beginning to get a little sick of being turned away without an interview because supposedly our kind causes havoc for ship environmental filters. It's just wrong."
"Oh yeah, I know that feeling. I've been a spacer for over 25 galactic cycles, and that one just won't go away. That said, the past 5 cycles have been pretty easy."
"Really? How?"
"Ever hear of humans?"
"Aren't they the new race the Galactic Council bumped into a few cycles ago?"
"Yep, that's the one. Their tech is a little wonky, but close enough to standard that you can figure it out. They're getting out and about with trading and exploration vessels."
"I've heard stories about them. They seem a bit excitable."
"True, in the right circumstances, especially if someone isn't treating a fellow sapien with respect. Overall, I'd call them a bit overeager and a tad impatient. They just learned about the greater galaxy and are rushing to see it all."
"They actually sound kind of nice. I've been dreaming of seeing the galaxy and want to spend at least the next 10 cycles exploring. It would be fun to do it with sapiens seeing the galaxy for the first time, unlike us who have been part of it for centuries."
"Sounds perfect. Just 2 concerns. First, are you willing to get drunk?"
"Under the right circumstances, sure."
"Any problems with public affection?"
"No. As long as it's consenting."
"Good. Here's what you need to do. There's a human ship coming into the station this afternoon. So you need to head over to the Austin Blues Bar in Sector 6. It's a human-focused bar, and the crew will definitely be wanting some shore leave and a taste of home. Stop by early evening so they got time to dock and deal with any cargo they need to. Make a small sign that says Spacer for Hire, and be sure to have a ScanLink code on it that connects to your credentials. One of 2 things will happen. Either way, expect at least one human to come over and start a conversation. Here's what you need to do." I barely walked into the Austin Blues Bar when the bartender raised and shook a tentacle in my direction. 20 credits to sit at the bar with your sign. Non-negotiable. I know your kind. I know what happens. I need to be paid up front. But I know Zernal sent you. 20 credits in advance. You get one drink. After that, it's only water. You sit in the second seat in from the end of the bar, sign pointed towards the door. Anywhere else? And it'll take longer. Any arguments, the price goes up to 25 credits, and I'll limit your time in the bar to 1 hour.
I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and swiped my ID on the reader at the bar to pay. It's only 20 credits. As gruff as the bartender might be, they seem to be used to this, which inspires at least a little confidence. I'll get some good leads. I got my drink, which tasted pretty watered down, to my displeasure. When I complained, the bartender topped it off with more water, shoved an ice stalk in my face, and just said, "Trust me." Just over half an hour later, the door to the bar opened and a human walked in. She was a full third taller than me, with green eyes, pale pinkish tan skin, and soft brown hair that looked like it would be shoulder length if it wasn't tied back. She was wearing a standard void suit that looked a little dusty, as if she'd recently done some cargo offloading.
Right, don't stare. Look away, follow Zernal's advice, and play it cool, I thought to myself. Just ignore.
"Hi," a surprisingly fluid and melodic voice said next to me, as the human woman was now standing next to me.
Hello? Are you real?
Zernal's option 2, I thought to myself before responding dryly. "Yes, I'm quite real. Can I? No. But I bite. You can't mean, let me rephrase, I bite hard."
Well, that's a bit rude. So was your thought to just walk up and ask to pet me, but I...
What's the phrase you humans use? Oh yes, you haven't even bought me a drink. So if...
That would be a good start.
What do you drink?
Alcohol, preferably from fermented fruits. So,
like wine or cider?
Never heard of those things. What are they?
One is made of grapes and the other's apples. And those are...
Right.
Grapes are little oval fruits about the size of my thumb that come in light green or dark red, and apples are...
How is this helping me understand what they taste like? Well, how about this? Pick one. Perhaps if you provide satisfactory samplings, I'll let you touch.
I then casually ran the back of my hand against the human's exposed wrist. The human reacted instantly. Her right hand shot up into the air, and they flicked their thumb against the middle finger to create a sharp snap to get the attention of the bartender. 2 hours later, and after more than a few samples of wine, cider, perry, and shots of peach and raspberry schnapps, Susan was quietly making her way across the cargo bay to the crew section, hoping nobody would notice her. Alas, First Officer Auguste Jacques chose that moment to walk out of his quarters and head towards the command deck, instantly spotting Susan with a bundle of passed-out fur in her arms.
"What the hell, Susan? You know the rules. No adopting anything buzzy without asking the captain first."
"Hi, Augie, and I know the rules, but..."
"You better have a damn good explanation."
"I found it all alone in a bar."
"That's not helping."
"But please, can we keep it?"
Susan blinked her eyes at Augie, hopefully. Augie took a closer look at the fluff curled up in Susan's arms and made a startling realization.
"Susan, that's a sapient pig, not a dog or a cat you can adopt. Are you trying to get the station authorities to arrest us for kidnapping? Do you even know if it's a boy or a girl?"
"No."
"Susan!"
Augie growled as loudly as possible, but still trying to keep quiet enough to not wake the cute bundle of fur in her arms.
"They're for hire, see? They have a sign with a scan link and their credentials and everything."
Fine, but you're keeping an eye on them, and if they cost anything above standard rates, it comes out of your pay."
"Oh, come on. Can you just give me a crew morale discount?"
"No, and a question. Is their fur as soft as it looks?"
Susan shot Augie the smuggest look she could muster.
"Softer, enough to make kittens jealous, and they like scritches."
End of story. Story number 2. The Lady, written by XX69 Mingle Noob 69XX. The massive intergalactic party that happened every millennium was in full swing. The music compelled people of all species to dance, while the food tables were always being restocked every few minutes. At one of said tables sat a lady, the lady. The lady that attended every single one of these parties since their inception. She had no distinguishing features, with her head being completely covered in a veil made of black smoke, always rising from her. Her shape was humanoid like all present, but it seemed to change ever so slightly every few moments along with the black dress. She seemed to be waiting for a partner to dance, as she did every time. But rarely anyone dared to ask her to dance. Every single individual that danced with her would seal its fate, for every time a dance was commenced, she would not stop, wouldn't slow down, would keep going until its partner was completely exhausted and would eventually die. One would think that no one would ever dance with her knowing the risks involved. But her mystic, her strange beauty, even though none had seen her face, and most of all, her power, it would always guarantee at least one invite to dance. So came a Thrallgix, tall and stocky. The proud warrior extended a hand to her, and she accepted. Together they stepped to the dance floor, waited for a new music to start, and on they went. The Thrallgix took the lead, his powerful arms guiding her through the song, while his legs stomped the ground, shaking it ever so slightly. But she never lost balance, and his arms, while strong, never seemed to overpower her. Eventually, after a dozen songs, he was running out of steam. She, however, was only warming up. At the 30th song, an explosion of energy and movement coming from her caught the Thrallgix off guard. These new steps and rhythm made him tired quickly, and eventually he tried to pull away. But he couldn't. Her grip now too strong. Her ceaseless and strange movements keep them facing each other, no matter where he tried to turn. Eventually, he couldn't take it anymore and collapsed on the floor, his lungs gasping for air, while he laid on a puddle of his own sweat. The proud physique he once had not a moment ago now shriveled to that of an old man in his deathbed. His strong red hands, now darkened and shaking with translucent skin, showing the bones underneath. The lady stood over him, lifted up her dress slightly and gave him a bow. Then she returned to her seat, once again waiting for someone to ask her to dance. And someone did. Tall and slender, a Gradshan presented its hand to the lady, and she took it. Together they took to the dance floor, the Gradshan not even waiting for the new music to play as he pulled her to the stage. His grandiose and lavish movements seemed to take her by surprise, but she quickly adapted and started to match him. That standoff only lasted for 7 songs, for eventually he had to conserve energy to keep up with her. Meanwhile, she kept increasing both her speed and complexity. Her dancing kept outpacing his until he, like many others, tried to get away from her. But her relentlessness kept cutting off his escape attempts and forced him to keep dancing. Finally, on the 10th song, he collapsed dead on the floor, his eyes glassy and motionless, and the lady, as usual, bowed to him and returned to her seat. For quite some time, nobody approached her again, content with enjoying themselves through conventional means for the rest of the festivities. It was then another one approached. Smaller than the average of the ones present, not skinny, but not strong-looking either. The figure was eventually recognized as a human, and he extended his hand. She took its hand, and he gently guided her to the dance floor. They waited for another song to start, and in a few minutes were on the center of the stage, and off they went. His style wasn't aggressive like the Thrallgix, or complicated like the Gradshan. It was simply effective. That is, at first. His conserved and calm dancing started to pick up the pace. Instead of gently leading her, he would now push and pull her. One moment he was doing long and fancy movements, and in the other they would be calm and collected. She matched his pace every step of the way, accompanying him in every movement and style. And so they danced, and danced, and danced. For over 50 songs they accompanied each other, matching blow for blow, step for step, until finally they were in perfect sync. No other partner had ever lasted half of what the human had endured, and the scariest part was yet to come. Throughout the lady's many dances, she had always started off as an equal and ended as one in control. That wasn't the case this time. This time, she was the one being controlled, being used, being dominated. After so long, she was the one that couldn't keep up. But instead of trying to pull away, like all had tried with her, she completely surrendered herself to him, letting him fully take the lead. With that, the human had become the lady's master, bringing her to new heights with his dance. For the first time in history, a partner had danced with the lady to the end of the festival. When the music ran quiet and the residents started to leave the dance floor, they both stared at each other, holding themselves in each other's arms. They stayed like this for mere moments until the human chose to speak.
My fair lady, what is thy name?
The lady moved her arm from his shoulder to her face and lifted the smoke veil, revealing an immense darkness. There was no facial features, only an infinite void. Then she answered, My name is War, and I've been waiting for you for eons. End of story.
I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.